Well, good morning, everybody, and it is a beautiful morning here. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David, from a very lovely morning here at Gulf Harbour, just north of Auckland. It is 19 degrees, and we've had these warm temperatures all the way through. Just when we sort of put, another blanket on the bed for the winter, we get these lovely nights that stay around 19 and 20. It's 19 degrees at the moment. We have only about 15% cloud on the horizon, so 6 knots of northerly wind, but the bar is dropping 1007.5, although it's higher than it was yesterday. It's sort of oscillating a little bit, but it is dropping down a bit, and well, we'll see. There's a bit of a long story with the weather at past, but you will remember that David only gave the possibilities of leaving this week a score of 2.5 out of 5 for being a suitable passage. We'll see whether it's still 2.5 or maybe has dropped on the half hour. Just the same process as normal here this morning. We'll cover a little bit of news and have a look at some of the reports from the islands, and then we'll go to weather. All right, I'll just do a pause to see if there's anybody out there in Sailing Island land that wants to say good morning. Is there anybody out there? Just turn the radio up a little bit. Sounds like Ron on Pilgrim. Good morning, Pilgrim. Yeah, thanks, Ron. Yeah, it looks pretty good up there, but tell you what, the place to be today is Vanuatu. The entire chain on the satellite picture is looking beautiful. That's the place to be today. You certainly wouldn't want to be between New Zealand and Tonga at the moment. I would say that Althea would still be under an awful lot of cloud, but and certainly there's a bit of cloud in Newcastle, but the worst of it has gone. But yeah, Fiji looks good. Samoa looks good. Vanuatu looks absolutely superb. So yeah, well, enjoy Suva up there. It was one place we never got to. We were intending to go there. We were at Labuka once, and we were going to check out from Suva, and then the weather looked absolutely brilliant for a trip to New Zealand, so off we went. So that was the end of Suva. So having spent a lot of time in the South Pacific, there are places that we didn't get to. So I guess, are you intending to go to the Lao, or are you? What's your plans, over?
We're intending to go to a lot of places.
Well, your signal drops away at the end of your transmission, so I just wonder what the power is to it. But yep, well, you've got a lot of months ahead of you, so you'll certainly get around, that's for sure. All right, let's have a look. Well, I talked to Diego earlier on, and he's got it really gusty where they are. They're at anchor now at Waia Island in the Asawas. You all know how it breezes through there. 25 gusting 30 actually, northeast. 1011 on the bar. So pretty interesting there. Momi Bay is somewhat different. 6 knots of easterly in calm seas, so pretty nice there. Blowing Bubbles is on their way to Muscat Cove. So that's about it from the more recent ones. Let me give you a little bit of news. I've sort of got sick of looking at world news at the moment. There's still a lot of disturbance in the Gaza Strip area because of the resiting of the American embassy there. But one thing that was interesting, I showed a picture of it actually, they have got tear gas drones. Boy, they are using drones for everything these days. But they're so tiny that I watched a picture of one being shot down, so they're still possible to target and shoot down. But it did remind me to tell you folk, the use of drones from sailboats does cause a bit of stress in the islands that people are not used to having their privacy interfered with. So do be careful about the use of drones, be courteous, and certainly don't take them over commercial vessels in Tonga that are whale watching and things like that. You just irritate people. So just use them, where there is nothing and nobody around, would be the polite way to go about using your drone. Mike was actually telling me that there is now a drone on the market that is waterproof. So that would, I know a lot of people report on yet that their drone has unfortunately succumbed to salt water, but they're producing updated ones all the time. Well, what other news have we got? We've got the Olympic sailing fleet. At 6:30, I wrote that it was under review. Well, it's more than under review. It's now been reviewed, and 3 of the 10 events that will be contested in Tokyo in 2020 will be replaced with different events. There will be new medal events to replace them. They're going to have a mixed one-person dinghy, a team event where women and men compete in separate gender-specific boats, and they have a new mixed two-person dinghy and mixed kite surfing. This will be in Paris in 2024. The Finn 470s will drop out, which is a shame really. They've been around for an awful long time. But the Finn will be retained for the men's boat in the mixed one-person event, and it will be used for the mixed two-person dinghy event. And the women's single-handed dinghy and 2 laser classes are going to undergo further evaluation. So there will be quite a bit of change to Olympic sailing in 2024. But if you don't think that you're ready for the Olympics, you can actually enter what they have just launched, an e-sailing virtual competition. It's all free. It takes the form of a weekly race on the internet with different boats and venues, and you can choose amongst them. There's a J70, a 49er, a Melby's 32, or if you are a multi-hull person, you can choose a NACRA 17. And every week they'll have a race which you'll compete in, and then the top 5 players worldwide from each of the weekly challenges, plus a few real-world notable sailors, will have a payoff series, and then in Sarasota in Florida, at the end of October, they'll have a final. So there you have it. If you're going to be delayed because you don't like David's weather for leaving New Zealand, you can plug into the e-sailing competition and just refresh your skills in the old racing area. What else is there? Oh, well, of course, it's the big wedding this week, and there's been a big drama because Meghan Markle's father won't be coming to walk her down the aisle at Windsor Chapel or Windsor Palace or whatever it is. So I don't know who, they haven't announced who will be walking her down the aisle. I'm sure if you want to volunteer, all volunteers will be very courteously accepted, but he has had a little bit of strife with trying to sell pictures, and he's had a heart attack last week, so he has decided that the stress and drama is all just too much, and he'll stay home. So good for him, says David. All right. The other interesting news from us, and this is just an indication to you, you people miss out on some of the things that we people that live on land experience every day. And one of the things that we experience every morning, we walk to the gate, pick up the paper, open it up, and pull out all the advertising junk that we don't need and drop it in the recycling bin on the way to the front door. Well, every morning there is a brochure for a retirement village. Now, you would think that we're absolutely surrounded by retirement villages, and certainly there are a lot around us in this particular area. But you do sort of, after a while, you think, geez, we're well, one of us is in our 70s, one of us has got time to go. But maybe we should be thinking about, these sorts of things, because it looks like everyone is going into them. Well, there is only 0.2% of Kiwis that live in retirement homes. So it just goes to show, well, one of the things it goes to show is that the advertising campaign is not really working, isn't it? Probably because a lot of people are like us and they drop it in the recycle bin before they've actually looked at it.
Never been truth in advertising.
No, that's quite true, David. Never has there been truth in advertising. Mind you, the 0.2% wouldn't include all those people that supposedly work in the government departments. Do you think they'd be included in the retirement people?
They're already retired.
Yeah, but they're getting paid. All right, so as you can see, there wasn't a hell of a lot of news that was really interesting enough to report today. So we'll get back to the sailing scene and see what else there might be. But I'll report on the streaming. It's fine and warm in Opuma, just the same as it is here. Light northwest, pretty much the same as here, and a falling bar. Thank you, Trevor. Same sort of report from Eagles Wings and Whangarei, 5 knots from the southeast. Oh, they get some strange things happen in that basin, don't they? The things wandering around. And non-stop are on their way from Whangarei up to Bay of Islands, so they'll probably be doing a bit of a motor trip up there. So they're going to be on their way to Tonga. So I think we'll probably go to the weather a little bit early today, because I know David's got quite a bit. He's been pulling his hair out all morning, looking at this passage and what he would say about it. But we'll go to that. Just a report from Frank, and he confirms that it is beautiful in Vanuatu. 10 knots of easterly, 10% cloud cover, slight seas. Absolutely a perfect time to be in Erromango, actually. And he went out on the reef. I know exactly where you were, diving and swimming yesterday. So they're thinking of moving on. We'll have to include Vanuatu to look at how to get north. I think David mentioned yesterday it was going to be turning to the south at some stage over the next couple of days. And still pretty nice in Cousteau, 3 to 7 knots from the northeast. Wow, good diving weather being reported all around the place. So, does it make you feel a bit nostalgic for?
Yes,
it does.
Yes.
Yep. We probably should sell all our diving gear, because I tell you what, it doesn't get used much in the cold waters of New Zealand. But we'll have to drag those BCDs out and do something with them before they rot in the back of the boat there.
Well, that's why in the old days you never had a BC.
Well, yes, David, when I did my license, he couldn't work out what this BCD was all about. But anyway, I'm going to pass the microphone and we'll see what the weather is going to do.
Yeah, well, I started scuba diving in 1958. 1958. There was no such thing as a BCD. In fact, it was pretty simple. You just strapped on a tank, down you went. Easy as pie. Okay, good morning, and time again to look at 500 millibar. No grunge. Now, our eastern ridge axis is near 175 west, and just east of the axis on the surface is our high. It's still very strong, 1028 millibar, and it's ridging toward Fiji at the moment. Now, next is the upper trough that we've been talking about now for seemingly a week in the Tasman. The axis runs northwest to southeast, which is the area, by the way, of maximum vorticity, or spin. Plus, there are areas of vorticity over New Zealand and just to the east of the country as well. So, on the surface, our depression has finally shifted, and it lies over the country. In fact, the center is pretty much over Cook Strait at about 998 millibar. And we've got numerous troughs that are running up the country. I mean, a lot of them. If you pull down your New Zealand synoptic chart, you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyhow, they go up to a tiny little depression that we talked about possibly happening yesterday, but it's near 31 and 175 east. Very small. Now, from this little depression or low, a front extends to New Caledonia. And then there's a trough that's just to the east of Vanuatu that originates from this low as well. Now the next upper ridge is over southeastern Australia, and that's maintaining a pretty big high. It's a 1036 high, and it's moving like a tortoise, very, very slowly toward Tasmania, barely moving. Now Thursday, tomorrow, around lunchtime, this high is going to continue. It stays pretty much where it is, but it's ridging. So in other words, it's extending its influence northeast pretty much toward New Caledonia, while the New Zealand low is going to shift very quickly to the southeast, get away from the country. Now, our eastern high moves just a little bit itself. It goes to about 33 and 155 west, 33 and 155. And it probably is going to be in the neighborhood of 1026, 1027 millibar. Now, between the two ridges, that one and the one in the west, is a frontal band. And this is normal. We'll talk about this all season whenever you have two highs that butt up to one another, when their ridges butt up, if you will. We get what's called an intra-anticyclonic trough. So you can picture that, I'm sure, I hope. We've got winds that are coming from the northerly quadrant on the eastern high, and winds coming from a southerly quadrant on the western high. Well, they're different density, they don't mix, they clash, and therefore we get a trough. Okay, winds east of this frontal band that forms now are warm, moist northeasterlies, and on the west side are colder, drier south to southwest winds. Now the Australian high, the one in the bight, as I said, it seems to remain near the bight right through Monday the 21st. Okay, well, let's look at departing today, as so many of you I think are going to do. Opua, well, Opua is looking at 15 knots out of the northwest, and then it should shift a bit to the north, about 20 knots, and then east to about 15 sometime this afternoon. Then probably shifting westerly by evening, maybe 10 knots, according to Met Service. Partly cloudy, you'll have showers, therefore some poor visibility from time to time. Now tomorrow is a little bit nicer, a nicer day to go if you're determined to go. Westerly is about 15 knots, very pleasant, and later southwest about 10. Now, there may be some scattered showers in this, looking at the WRF model, which is the nesting model New Zealand uses. I could see them. They're not much, but just enough to wet the deck down and make it slightly uncomfortable, I suppose. Anyhow, Friday, we've got light air all the way up to 30 south. And on Saturday, the frontal band, that New Zealand Newcal frontal band, still is over Newcal, but shifting east a bit. And it goes down to 25 and the dateline. So you can picture the slant of this frontal band. It's not moving very fast. And winds north of the dateline, well, they should be east to east-northeast. Now, by Sunday, the band remains near 25 in the dateline, and wind north of that convective area, according to GFS, are going to be light south-southeast winds, although EC is calling off light northerly winds. So as you can see, there's a bit of a discrepancy here. Then by Tuesday, we've got a front crossing New Zealand again, and that frontal band runs almost due north. Winds to Fiji, well, they look to be on the nose at that point in time. Well, a week from now, if you didn't go, around Wednesday the 23rd, that Oz high, the Australian high, yep, still there in the bight, still ridging toward New Zealand, although a trough now is pushing north over the South Island. So it's pushing what little remains of that ridge from the highs pushing that out of the way and is sort of taking over New Zealand. Now, winds look to be, near Opua this is, winds look to be fairly fresh southwesterly winds, 20 knots plus, and that's according to GFS, but EC doesn't agree. They think it's going to be west-northwest. And this is the problem. The models, mainly the key ones, EC and GFS, well, they're really not in agreement. This week, next week for that matter as well. So departing today or tomorrow has no real chance to be considered a good window as far as I'm concerned. It's a doable passage, but it's going to be annoying in the sense that you can have headwinds at times. There's plenty of convective activity in the Southwest Pacific, and that means squalls, and those squalls at night are a real pain, as most of you know. So that is the story. I know many of you are going to go anyway. There's no major hazard in this that I could see. No, Queens, Berkeley storm type of weather, but just not great. Okay, well, looking again at just today on satellite imagery, that frontal band we talked about really cuts the cruising route right in half, diagonally, as it goes up to New Caledonia. There's a lot of cloud and showers and squalls out there. And another trough, as I said, branches off of that to, well, it goes just to the east of Raoul, and then it goes on actually toward Tongatapu. The earlier loop had it further to the west, but this loop is pushing it toward Tongatapu. So for Tonga, the weather in Tonga, expect cloud, especially in the south, and of course scattered showers along with that, and pretty much the same for tomorrow. Winds look to be easterlies, about 20 knots, and tomorrow I think a little bit lighter, maybe southeast 15 to 20. So that's Tonga. Not great in Tongatapu, but a little bit better further north. Fiji Met continues with their strong wind warning for all Fiji waters. Reports that we've gotten from the boats that are there indicate that they've got a fair amount of wind. Of course, all of it is coming from different directions. Essentially in open water, the wind should be easterlies about 20 to 25, but depending upon where you are, the orographics can turn that around. You get different direction winds. And all of this, by the way, is thanks to that strong ridge that's to the southeast. That high that we talked about to the east, that's the one that's causing these winds. Anyhow, about the same tomorrow, same conditions tomorrow. Now, satellite imagery for Fiji shows just scattered cloud. Actually, higher cloud moving southwest to northeast, and lower cloud is moving northeast to southwest, just the opposite. So if you were a bird, well, you can get a free ride in either direction, just get a little bit higher or lower. Anyhow, Vanuatu looks very good on imagery, as Patricia had mentioned. Very few clouds are evident this morning. Plenty of nice blue sky. So enjoy this, as I think cloud and showers from the New Cal trough are slowly going to edge their way northeastward and probably affect some of Vanuatu. Now, winds from Anishim to Efate are light, mostly east-southeast to southeast. I don't know, I think east, I'd say about 10 knots in the mean. So I give it a band of about 5 knots either side of that, but pretty light air. Further north, though, it picks up a bit, southeast about 10 to 15. So for going north, it's a piece of cake, no problem at all. New Caledonia, though, is plenty of cloud from the frontal band, although it's very thin in appearance on IR imagery. It's the New Zealand front, of course, that is lying over the country, but there's not much to it at this point in time. It looks very, very weak. However, expect south-southeast to southeast winds around 15 knots in our southern lagoon, and a little bit more wind tomorrow, probably southeast about 20 knots for the lagoon, southern lagoon in New Cal. So that's pretty much it for me. I wish I could give you a rosier picture on the trip north. Now, those going to New Caledonia are probably in the best shape of all the different cruising routes that you could be taking. That ridge that we've got from the west, that's ridging to the east, that is going to be giving some decent trade winds on the way to New Cal. There will be some troughs within it. New Zealand's one of the few places in the world that you could have a nice high, a nice ridge, and still have a trough sitting in it. We could cover that one day why that happens. But anyhow, that's the story there. But going to Tonga and Fiji, a little bit different. So let us know what you do. We'll look at it again carefully tomorrow morning and report to you. Keep your boat if you do go. If you could please write the reports down on YIT, the weather reports, and I'd appreciate it. Getting the microwave satellite data, but unfortunately today the swaths that are coming down are not covering the area that I want to see, so I can't really tell exactly what the winds are doing. That way I could have told you what model is more accurate, but not to be today, maybe tomorrow, or maybe later today. I look at it in the afternoon as well, and in fact I will today for sure, and try to pin down which model is doing a little bit better in this. So that's it. I'll give it over to the chief, and it's all yours.
Yeah, well, I'll call for any questions. We do have actually one from Billamy. They're looking at the swell for this particular passage, and being the old sages that they are, they don't think it looks very comfortable to add to the weather that you've just been talking about. Looks like about a 3 metre southwest range of swell. So any comments on the swell?
Not at this point, but I'll look.
Yeah, he'll look at that, Trevor. Anybody else with any questions? It sounds like the radio is working well today, booming up. Thank you for the reports. It's always good to know. Anybody with any question? Anthea, how's it going in the anchorage at Rail Island? Over.
We've got a southeasterly swell coming in, making it rolly, but protected from wind, with speed will still be north-northeast, perhaps 10 to 12, hard to say exactly, and about 90% cloud cover. Over.
Gosh, you're still booming in. Fantastic signal from you both. All right, Rail Island, just for those that maybe are in the skip from Anthea, there is a bit of a southeast swell coming in now, but they are protected from the wind in that boat bay that they're in on the southeast side. There is a north-northeast 10 to 12 with a 90% cloud cover. I'll just pass the microphone because you'll be interested to know when you can actually get out of there. We'll give a bit of an update. Stand by.
Well, the weather I gave is pretty much what you'll have. As far as swell goes, I'm just starting to look at some of that. Most of the big swells are between Australia and New Zealand. We're getting 6 meters just to the west of New Zealand and in the center Tasman. On the run line to Fiji, they're all in a good direction in the sense they're coming from the southwest. But they're getting up and looking at Monday as an example, Monday the 21st, and around 30 south, they could be 5 meters. But when you get a little bit further north, about 25 south, they come down considerably, maybe 4 meters. And that's Monday. Take a look. Tuesday, hang on. Yeah, they diminish as next week continues to go. This area is still a bigger swell, probably in the neighborhood of 4 meters, 4.5 meters. Again, the really big stuff is in the Tasman. And if you draw a line from, say, Cook Strait or Taranaki to Sydney, that's sort of the dividing line between really big swells and swells that aren't so bad. So that's the story on that. But again, they're all in the right direction in terms of worrying about that. That would be giving you a bit of a push.
Was that for those at Rail Island?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And what about Trevor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of covered both questions there, didn't it? So, yeah, well, we'll wait and see what happens with you guys. What are you going to try and get out of there as soon as you can, over?
Roger that. We're looking at departure tomorrow morning if that wind does back to a southwesterly and I guess one question is whether there's, the rum line is definitely the favored track, or if we should try to preserve any of our systems. Over.
Okay, so the question for David is from Raoul. What the hell that's pronounced?
Raoul.
Raoul, whether it's best to go rum line. Well, just what are your thoughts on getting from the? You're going into Suva, is that correct, over?
That's our current plan, over.
Okay, hang on.
Well, again, it depends what model that you believe in. That's why I'm a bit concerned about this whole thing. Looking as an example at GFS on Saturday, which was that's the 19th, and this what is today? Today's only Wednesday, I guess it is.
Yeah.
That frontal band is going to be crossing the cruising route, so it's going to extend from New Caledonia to basically 25 south and the Dateline. So I don't know where you will be on Saturday, but if you're south of that, run line is fine. But north of the frontal band, according to GFS, the winds are northeast. So that would indicate that you should sort of make an arc to the east, basically get a little bit of easting in. And then if those winds do come from the northeast, then you'll be in a little bit better position for that. Now, let's compare that Saturday for, what was that? I said the 19th. So we'll see what EC has got to say about that. Now, whoops, wait a minute. I'm going to give this back to Trish a minute.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, one of the things I do whilst David is talking, I can multitask. I just want to make sure that he knows that I am listening to him. But one of the other things I do with my eyes is look at some of your very good blog sites. And I was looking through the Whistler one. I wondered why they went up with Exit Strategy, Golden Glow, and Whistler, and they're all three identical boats, so that must have been fun. But boy, they have got some stunning pictures on their blog site. I don't know which one of you is the photographer, but absolutely stunning pictures both above and below the waterline. So some of your blogs sites are fantastic. If you want to, let me know what they are, or make sure you just put them in your YIT page, then we can go to them from time to time, as well as your family. But yeah, it's superb. By the way, Pilgrim, your report hasn't come in yet. There must be a little bit of a slowness with Sail Mail today. So I'll pass it back to David to look at this a bit more.
All right, we're going to talk about Sunday the 20th. And those of you, if you do leave, I don't know where you will be on Sunday the 20th. It depends on how fast you are. But both models are in agreement that a small depression is going to form. We talked about this earlier. I picked that up quite some time ago. Now the location's a little bit different. GFS has got it just to the southeast of Anisham, whereas EC has got it sort of south of Fiji, maybe a little bit southwest of Fiji. The point being that from that particular low, which by the way is going to be about, I would say 23, 24 south, and about anywhere between 170 and 175 east, the winds above that are going to be northerly quadrant, according to EC and northeast GFS. So you would really have to be making a little bit of easting, or you're going to have headwinds. So, yep, I would say do what you want to do for a bit and then start to ease to the right. I guess if it were us, that's what we would do. We don't give advice, but I think that would probably be the prudent thing, is just to get some easting in, and hopefully the models will start to come together. Actually, they're reasonably in agreement on this one. A little bit off on locations and whatnot, but I'm fairly impressed. And so Sunday, I'm going to give this back to Trish again for a minute, folks, and I'll come back.
Just as well as two of us here, otherwise there would be long pauses. I'm currently looking at a fish that was caught. And just a reminder about Ciguatera in the islands, the rule of thumb is to only eat if you catch something within the lagoon or around a reef. We're talking about reef fishes. We're not talking about mahi-mahi and wahoo and stuff like that. We're talking about reef fish. As long as it is the same length or smaller than the distance between your elbow and the tip of your fingers, then you should be all right. It's those older, bigger groupers and things that cause a lot of problems with Ciguatera. Back to the passage from Ra'u to Fiji.
Yeah, remember the time we were in Vanuatu and that preacher came? They were, can't remember what island this was.
Way up north.
But, where?
Way up north it was.
Yeah, it was up north somewhere. But anyway, they brought in a preacher
Preacher.
help. He's a new preacher for the area, but they were also dedicating a new church or something like that. And the old rule, they would tell you about the fish shouldn't be any longer from your fingers to your elbow and whatnot. And the next day, we found out the preacher had to be thrown out. He got real bad Ciguatera. So rules of thumb are made to be broken. Okay, now I'm looking at Monday the 21st. So those of you that leave today or tomorrow will probably be about 23 south. It would be my guess if you're just an average yacht. Now this is where everything changes. That little low that I talked about the day before is gone. It's gone on both models. And it's replaced by very decent winds. So in the case of EC, if you were doing run line to Fiji, there's southerlies. If you went east just a little bit, get some easting in, the winds are coming almost out of the west at the latitude of Tongatapu and south to about 23, 24. GFS, though, says southeast winds. So there's a fairly big deviation, and the reason for the deviation is they don't agree on the location of the ridge. The EC model has the ridge more or less stopping, going no further east than the longitude of Fiji, whereas GFS has the ridge moving much further east. So that's the difference. That's the reason they're differing on this. So today we'll get more runs and things should tidy up a little bit. So we'll let you know tomorrow how things look. So the point is, though, the winds are going to change no matter what model that you pick. You're either going to have southeasterlies or southerlies at around 23 south. So there you go. And that's why I say it's not a fantastic passage, because the models are not in agreement. But again, there's nothing in this that you couldn't deal with. It just makes it a pain more than anything else. So that's it for me. Here's the chief.
Well, I hope Whistler understood all that. Sounded a bit complicated to me, but we'll see what happens early tomorrow morning. All right, back to, no, it wasn't Whistler, it was Anthea. Sorry, even I'm getting confused. Anybody else with anything? Okay, nothing heard, and I'll just better go back to the dashboard to see if there's what would be the period between them, those swells. Did you happen to look at that?
No.
We didn't look at that. So we'll hopefully it's not too short. Alright, tomorrow morning we'll be back with another update to see if anything has changed. Doesn't sound as if it's going to be a wondrous day to go, but we'll wait and see what you do. Some people I know are desperate to get going, and who knows, it could be worse next week. So there you have it. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, and this is Patricia and David, Gold Harbour Radio. Clearing the frequency, it is all yours. Hold your horse.